me know in case you guys see any kind of audio, video issues or anything. Feel free to use the chat to let me know, okay? Cool, awesome. So welcome everyone. Thanks again for taking out the time today to join us on the session. My name's Mayank Grover. I'm founder of Outscal, and today we'll be basically going over sort of some initial details about what our game development program is all about, what you can expect if you enroll into the full program, and what kind of benefits you can derive from it, and what all things will kind of happen, because it's a fairly long program as well, right? So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen. All right. Okay, give me one second. Let me actually share my entire desktop actually. All right, cool. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. And yeah, okay, cool. So the way the session will work is that I'll quickly go over some of the basic details of the program. This would take us approximately 25 minutes, 25 minutes. In between, whatever questions you might have, feel free to put them down in the chat, and I'll keep picking up questions as I stop in between, okay? So feel free to ask as many questions, and I instead encourage you to ask as much questions as possible, because a lot of the things that you'll be hearing about the program today might be generally are very new to this industry altogether, especially like the learning industry slash education slash job related career outcomes and things like that, right? So those kind of things will be new. So I encourage you to ask all possible questions, that whatever, just don't worry, whatever question comes to mind, just shoot. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned, I'm the founder of Outscale. I started this company almost 2 years back now, and a little bit about myself briefly. So I have more than 10 years of technology experience. I've worked in India and US and a bunch of other companies and countries in between. And the last 8, 9 years of my career has been in different gaming companies. Some of these companies you might know. Probably the most popular one in India was Jungle Games, which does a lot of casino and non-casino games as well. So they're a fairly big company, 300 people now. Some big companies in US are Electronic Arts, which I'm sure most of you know about, FIFA and all those games. So EA Sports, and well, EA Sports is in Canada, but I was in the US headquarters. And then a couple of other companies like Kixeye and DNA, where I ended up working on a couple of high-profile games as well. One of them was a Transformers games. So all across, I've worked with very big companies, tens of thousands of people, versus small, really small companies, less than 10 people. Startups. So across the board, I've had a lot of fair share of experience working in almost every part of the world. And what I have tried my best to do is basically condense the learnings of the last 8 to 9 years of my experience down into this one program that you guys can leverage and get your career started. Okay, so this is a full stack game development program. Predominantly, usually people get confused what the word full stack means, because most of the time engineers think that full stack relates to web development. That's really not the case. So full stack essentially just means that you can do something on the back end as well as the front end. Front end being something that is user facing, such as an app or a website or something, a device that a user holds, and back end being, your server where data gets processed and whatnot, right? So here we use the term full stack because when you're going through the program, you'll be learning not just building games on the front end, which is going to be predominantly Unity. And on the back end, we'll be focusing on Node.js, and I'll talk a little bit more details about it. So essentially, we'll be building both single player and multiplayer games. Okay, so overall, today's session, I'll be focusing on these sort of high-level details. What are the modules and how the classes are conducted during the program? What is this new thing called income share agreement? And we'll be talking more details about it. How does the placement process happen? And then what are the tools and the softwares that you'll be expected to use along the way as well? And these are the predominant places where you'll interact with the rest of the batchmates slash the Outscal team and as well the external mentors. Okay. For modules, as I mentioned, so on the gaming side, we'll heavily rely on Unity as the core game engine, which means we'll use Unity along with C# as the programming language. So the whole program is structured into projects. Okay, there is no sort of theoretical bullshit that you have to study, and there is essentially no exams. Okay, and the way everything kind of works is the program is set up as if you are already hired by Outscale as an engineer, right? So if you were remotely hired as an engineer by any startup slash software company, you have to behave and work in the same manner. Okay. So what this means is that from day one, you will be getting projects to work on. Okay. And as you work on these projects, you'll start to learn new concepts. So each project would be broken down into features, and each feature will have certain common aspects. Okay, so each feature will first have a study material. Okay, that will study, and there will be a mini assignment associated with it, which means whatever we have studied, we'll be applying and implementing a small part of that particular project. Okay, using that study material that we just studied. Okay. And from there on, there will be an extended or a bonus challenge where you will be taking that thing that you just learned, that concept that you just learned, and building a slightly bigger and a more advanced feature out of it. Okay. So this way you'll incrementally keep building features and features and features. Ultimately, you'll get a full project out of it. Okay. So each of these projects that you see right now, and I'll talk more about it, is a fairly long project. These are not your tutorial YouTube projects that you see where you can just sit together for 2-3 hours and complete a to-do app or complete a weather app or some booking app probably in a weekend, right? So these are not weekend projects. These projects, each of them will take you at least 4 to 5 weeks to finish, right? And each project has its own timelines and deadlines. So every project will be broken down into these features. At the end of every feature, you'll basically be getting feedback in terms of code reviews, and external mentors will be reviewing your code. And mentors are people like me who are industry professionals with a shit ton of experience, and they'll basically be guiding you as to what all mistakes did you did, how can you improve them, how can you fix your code, and how can you write better code, etc. Right? So this core functionality, right? Like get a feature assigned to you, implement that feature, somebody senior to you reviews your feature, gives you feedback, and you go back and improve it. And the cycle keeps repeating forever. This is exactly the same cycle that happens in tech companies once you're working on any projects. Okay. So that's exactly the same cycle that we'll be using as part of this program as well. Okay. So the first project that we'll be building is we'll be learning sort of fundamentals of Unity, and we'll be kickstarting with a 2D platformer project. And here we'll be focusing on learning a lot more sort of fundamentals in terms of how to structure animations, how to structure levels, how to build something where I can have hundreds of levels in a game. So we'll be taking a use case of a 2D platformer game and covering both C# fundamentals from a language perspective, as well as how do we apply concepts inside Unity. Okay, so we'll be learning both of these things together. At the end of it, the goal is that every project that you do is something that is worthy of going on your resume. All these projects will be publicly available open source on your GitHub profiles, and you will be able to showcase them to your future employers who might be interested in hiring you down the road, right? And instead, that's actually a very strong thing that we use where, your GitHub profile that we'll end up creating through this program, that will become a very strong tool for you to showcase to any future engineering manager, senior engineer who is looking to hire you as either an entry level engineer, or maybe even if you have working experience than somebody senior. The GitHub profile is way more important than a piece of resume, right? So everything that we do will essentially go and live on GitHub, and over time you'll keep making improvements, etc., to it as well. So the first project will be a Unity 2D platformer game. And from there on, this project is roughly 4 weeks in length. And after that, we'll be jumping into data structures and algorithms. So we'll be spending a good two and a half, close to 2.5 months on just data structures and algorithms. And for this particular module, we'll be heavily focusing on C++. So there'll be, from C#, we'll be shifting gears and going into C++, learning the fundamentals of C++. So all the folks that are already part of the pre-course, you would have already started learning C++. But once we start our classes, we'll spend about 1 week on sort of making sure the C++ fundamentals are solid. And then from there on, we'll be diving into data structures and algorithms as well. So for DS and Algo, this is another one of the major misconceptions that people have. They think only top tier companies like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft focus on DS and Algo. That is not the case. All gaming companies these days are only focusing heavily on your DS and Algo. If your DS and Algo is not good, then you can learn Unity, Unreal, all the possible game engines. You can forget ever getting placed in a tier 1 company. Okay. Sure, you will absolutely be able to find some small startup that is hiring based on only Unity skill set or only Unreal skill set. But if you really want to aim tier 1, you have to make sure that your fundamentals in data structures and algorithms is top notch. So almost sort of think of it like the entire 6 months, half of it, or 40 to 45% of it, will be focused heavily on DS and Algo. Okay. And another advantage that this gives is, 2-3 years down the road, if you decide to become a backend developer, right? Somebody, because anyways, we'll be talking about backend as well. If you become a senior engineer and you want to become more backend, your data structures and algorithms will come in really handy there, right? If you want to apply for those kind of roles as well. So having a solid fundamental of your data structures and algorithms is going to help you not just apply to, gaming companies only, but actually broadly any company in the world, because everybody looks at data structures and algorithms no matter what. Okay. So it basically maximizes your chances of applying to as many companies as possible. Okay. So DS and Algo, again, we'll be covering everything, starting with your arrays, strings, linked list, stacks, queues, trees, graphs, as well as sorting, searching, all those algorithms. And we'll be touching on few specific algorithms that are sort of specific to the gaming industry, such as pathfindings and things like that, which normally in other sort of regular software engineering jobs you won't find probably. So we'll be touching on those as well, because a lot of game companies do ask you things like pathfinding and a bunch of other algorithms that fundamentally get used in sort of when you're building AI for games as well, right? So so those are some kind of special cases as well that we'll be kind of touching on. So after finishing DS and Algo, then we'll be moving back into Unity World, where we'll be touching on our 3D project. So here we'll be talking a lot more advanced level concepts and implementing features that you will use 100% every day on any fairly complex project that you're building. So if you're building a hyper casual game, or a very simple game, you might not need a lot of these concepts. But if you're building anything bigger than that, right, anything slightly even more complex, you know, these same sort of design patterns and advanced level concepts such as performance optimization and what is a singleton, how state machines are implemented, observer pattern, events, all these stuff is going to get used in real world on production projects, no matter what you do. So these are the kind of concepts that, when you enter a company from day one, you'll be able to apply them because you've already implemented them in your own projects as well, right? And that is where it will take you from average engineer to a great one, because you understand what writing good code is, what writing clean code means, and what writing scalable code means, right? So those are the kind of principles. And while we will be implementing them in the C# world, especially in the context of the Unity 3D project, the same topics will actually translate later on into your JavaScript projects, into your C++ game projects that we'll be talking about as well. Okay. So you learn basically how do you learn something once and take those skills and apply it to every other domain. And this is something that majority engineers, at least early on in their careers, don't think about, but is super important from company's perspective, right? So if I tell you today, I'm hiring you as a game developer, and you come in with a skill set of Unity, and 1 year from now the company decides that they want to start launching Facebook games or messenger games and things like that, right, which does not use Unity at all, at least not now. And now you have to go learn web development frameworks, because you have the skill set of learning things once and applying it in multiple places. You'll be way more valuable to companies, right? So the technical term behind this is transferable skills. How do you learn something once and then transfer your skills into new domains, right? So essentially, if you look at it, right, the title says it's full stack game development. It does not say full stack Unity developer, right? Because the goal of this program is not to make you a Unity developer, is to make you a solid game developer. And game developers work on front end, they work on back end, they work on different technologies. Unity, Unreal, Cocos, all these platforms and tools, at the end of the day, they're just tools, right? They can be replaced by new tools that will come up. And if you really want to be a great engineer, you need to learn how to, apply your knowledge to multiple tools at a time, right? Like you cannot just say, I'm a Unity engineer, right? In 5 years, you will be obsolete if you're just a Unity engineer. And the same goes for JavaScript, the same goes for, Python, the same goes for pretty much everybody else, right? So there are new frameworks coming up. You keep have to learning new frameworks. You keep have to, keeping at top of what's happening in the industry. And that is what, is happening right now in the industry as well, right? So you need to practice the skill that I'm going to today learn something, but I'm going to take out the pieces that are relevant and apply them to a new thing that I'll be learning tomorrow, right? So that is something that is super important to learn. So things that we'll be learning in C++ and OOPS will be applied in this project, right? And things that we'll be learning here will be again applied in this project. And things that we'll be learning here will be applied in this project. So you can see how the complexity kind of increases over time, and you start building more and more complex games, and that adds value to your portfolio. Okay. So during this Unity 3D project, we'll be heavily talking about sort of not just advanced level C# concepts, but also some things on the Unity front, which will focus on, say, performance optimization, especially for mobile games, and how do you make sure that you're hitting the right frame rates, and all the things that typically are critical in order to ship production quality great games that run smoothly on different types of devices, etc. as well. So after we finish the 3D project, we'll be focusing on a multiplayer project. So this will be the first multiplayer project that you'll be focusing on. We'll be learning some fundamentals of JavaScript. And if you already know JavaScript, great. If you don't know it, don't worry. We'll cover the fundamentals. And from there on, we'll be diving into building a basic server on Node.js. So the slide doesn't say it, but along with Node.js, you will be using one of the Amazon Web Services components that lets you build backend servers. And these, I'm sure if you've played any games, you would have seen these features like leaderboard, adding friends to your clan and things like that, right? Like all PUBG and Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, all of these games have these kind of common features, right? So Microsoft, Amazon, all of these web services have certain backends that you can connect to get certain features out of the box. So we'll be mixing and matching. So we'll be writing the core gameplay logic in our own backend server, and then we'll be using certain things such as leaderboard, matchmaking from some of these existing services. So that way you know how to write your own server as well as how to use certain components of existing services that can easily get you up and running with this. So in this backend project, we'll be in the multiplayer project, we'll be building a turn-based multiplayer game. Okay, and this will be kind of uh, so I blank out on the name. I'm just blanking out on the name, but basically you have two tanks, uh, pocket tanks. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but two tanks, turn by turn, they're shooting and deciding a projectile, picking up a weapon or a missile or something, and then shooting it across. And you have two mobile devices. One guy shoots, the same information gets relayed onto the other device, and you see the similar animations happen, and all that effect happens on both the devices, right? So that will be the focus for this particular project. The interview preparation part, this is listed down last, but it actually sort of starts happening after we finish the data structures module. So once we finish the DS module, pretty much during your entire 3D project and your multiplayer project, you'll be focusing in parallel on interview preparation as well. So this kind of happens in parallel. And the reason for that is that, frankly, majority engineers and engineering students, they suck at communication, right? They're really, really bad at communication. And that's not against anything against you guys, but generally it's a worldwide phenomena where engineers aren't really good at communication, right? So they need to practice a lot in order to communicate things. And now, if you guys have already guessed, because of COVID, all the hiring that is happening is 100% online, right? Which means that earlier, if you were having the option to show up at a company's office and give an interview in front, you're still okay. Even if you were, 70% in terms of your communication skill, you were fine because you were doing this face to face, right? But guess what? When you're doing it on Zoom, in order to make sure that you can communicate clearly both on technical and non-technical interviews, you need to over communicate. So that 70% on communication skills no longer cuts it. Okay. And guess what? 100% also does not cut it. So you need to be 150% in order to make sure that you're able to communicate all the things across that you want to. Be it whether you're solving a technical problem on a Slack or a Skype interview, or you are giving them some design of your architecture, or you're explaining some projects that you're working on, right? So unless you are at that level where you're communicating as if right now I am communicating with you guys, right? Uh, you know, uh, it's just not going to cut it, right? Because there's so much fierce competition in the market right now that majority people think that being a good developer is all about writing good code, coming up with sexy data structures and algorithms or logic to implement. That's half of the job. The rest of the half of the job is communication. Because if you've written awesome code, you have built great software and products, if you can't really communicate it to other people on your team, well, guess what? It doesn't work, right? So none of that shit matters unless you're able to explain to your teammates what exactly have you done, what exactly have you written, how does it work, how does it integrate with their particular parts, and what feature they are working on, etc. Right? Everything essentially every day is communication. So if you're 90% on your tech skills, but you're 120 on your communications, you'll get hired. But if it's reverse, that you're 120 on your tech skills, but you're 90 on your communication, probably you won't. Okay. So that is why we focus heavily on making sure that the interview preparation module, you guys have enough time to do mock interviews, both technical and non-technical. Make sure your resumes are up to date in terms of what the industry expects. Make sure your LinkedIn profile, your GitHub profile are, completely sexified in a way where you showcase the right kind of projects to the right kind of people, right? So all of these minor details have major impact when you're putting yourself in front of companies, right? So a reason like since we do this practice in parallel, one of the effects that we are now starting to see, because since COVID, as you all know, gaming industry is undergoing a massive boom, right? So what's happening is that our batches right now, they haven't even graduated, and 2 months before, people have started getting placed already. People have already started accepting job offers, and they've actually joined companies already. And they're continuing to in this specific batch that I'm talking about, we haven't even started the multiplayer project yet. And companies have already started rolling out job offers. Partly the reason is because they'd already done so much of this, right, that they were able to communicate clearly, articulate clearly, and all of them are working remotely because every company is right now hiring remotely, right? So do not underestimate this just because this is the last point. This is actually probably one of the more important points, right? So you will never be able to communicate any of this stuff, right, unless this is top notch. Um, so whatever you do, however you prepare for companies, right, whether it's with Outscale or without Outscale, whatever it may be, just make sure that you get this rock solid, okay? Especially on the communication aspect. Cool. So I don't see any questions regarding the modules, so I'm just going to move forward. In case anybody has any questions, just put their name in the chat, please. All right. Okay. So in terms of classes, all the live sessions will be on Zoom. One second. So this is where actually, most of you would um, uh, find this kind of, a different or a very unique kind of a setup. So like I was mentioning before, that the way our structure works is it almost mimics exactly how shit happens in the industry. Okay. So when you join a company might be working on a completely different technology from what you know, but they've recognized that you're a great engineer, your fundamentals are solid, and you're a good fit for their team. They will hire you, right? It doesn't matter, more or less, at the end of the day, it never matters exactly what technology the company is using and are you 100% on those technologies or not. If you are, chances of you getting hired are much higher. But if you're not, but if your fundamentals are rock solid, you have the right attitude, you have the right thought process for problem solving, and fundamentals are great, they will still hire you. Okay. That doesn't block them from hiring you. The only thing that will happen is that when you join the company, you are expected to really fastly learn the things that is happening inside the company, learn quickly all the technologies that they're using, and start becoming productive on whatever products that they're building, whether it might be games or gamified apps or something else, right? So whatever it is, that pattern remains consistent. Okay. When you're in the company and you have to learn new technologies, there is no teacher, right? Nobody's going to sit and teach you shit. Okay. You're expected to learn things your own way, right? You'll be given a goal that, hey, you have to integrate analytics into our project, right? This is the game that you're building. Your task one is to go and integrate analytics. This is the analytics application that we're going to use. This is our game or product or code base or whatever, figure out to make it work, right? That is what happens. And now it's your job that within a time frame, go research on Google, look at tutorial videos or whatever basically you need to do to get shit done. That is the attitude and the mindset that great company needs, right? They don't want to be sort of focusing on having to spoon feed you and lecture you at every step of the way as to how to do your job. Okay. And that is the reason why these companies pay a shit ton of money to find the right kind of engineers and the right kind of people, because all of this stuff is actually, where you have to come up with a lot of creative solutions, etc. as well. Okay. So because the program is structured exactly like how shit happens in companies, what you can expect to happen now on a weekly basis when you're having your modules and sessions, etc., is, so today, imagine today is day one. If this was sort of like not an orientation class, if this was suppose our initial kickoff when when we start the projects and all, I'll be introducing you to your classroom setup and how the project, etc., is set up, and what the first project is. We'll be going into the details of the 2D project, etc. And from there on, in Google Classroom, study material will unlock for feature one. So for feature one, for instance, you'll basically be implementing the player and setting up a basic player in Unity, and all the study material for that particular project will unlock for that particular feature. Now you'll start going through that study material on your own time, and then implement the first assignment, which will be basically setting up your player with animations and etc. etc. And then on day 2 or day 3, whenever is our first live session on Zoom, that is when you have to come prepared with your first feature implemented. Okay. Now, 90% of the stuff that you need to implement on that feature will already be available in the study material. Okay. So you don't have to worry about figuring out from day one, but there will be certain bonus challenges where you will be encouraged to go out and figure things out for yourself, right? So such as, okay, you implemented XYZ type of animations, but there is this custom animation that you need to implement. For that, you need to probably do a little bit of figuring out on Google as to, okay, how do I exactly implement this animation? I know all the basic animation, but this advanced level animation, how do I do it? Right? Because these kind of situations will keep coming up when you're in the job, right? And good engineers will basically be able to figure this out, right? So, and then during these live sessions, so if I'm your mentor for a specific project, I'll be looking at all the code reviews that I'll be looking at all the codes that you guys have implemented, and we'll be doing group discussions on, okay, person one implemented the same feature but in a very different way. Person to implement it a completely different way, or everybody is working on the same features, but when we look at all these different implementations, we'll get to discuss and understand that if this was a professional full-fledged game or a product, why would certain parts of your particular implementations will fail, right? So if say Varun implemented XYZ thing, right? The same feature, say Karan implemented, in a ABC way, right? So your mentors will be giving you feedback on, if you implement ABC, you didn't think about CDE, right? Or something else will break, right? Because you didn't think about this, right? So if you were working on a real project and this was supposed to be integrated with another person's code, your code will break. And this is where it does not meet industry standards, right? So looking at not just the mistakes that you will make, but you'll be looking at the mistakes of all your batchmates as well. And what that does is that instead of you having to make 10 mistakes, you make only one mistake, but you get to learn from 10 mistakes. And that elevates your learning experience completely, right? So you don't need to wait a full year where you'll end up making those 10 mistakes to learn from them, but you'll be able to, within a very short span of time, see all the different approaches, and based on your mentor's feedback, come up with a solution as to what is the best possible approach, right? And that is the real way how code reviews actually happen in the industry as well. So when you go into a project, day one, don't think that you'll be pushing out project to a live Android application. You'll be basically doing some features, you'll be pushing it out to GitHub. Somebody senior in the company will be reviewing these, etc. Right? And they'll be giving you feedback. And based on that feedback, you'll go and improve. Like the same flow that I mentioned earlier, right? It is exactly the same flow and the same loop that will be following internally. Okay. Let me quickly check. So there are some questions. What compiler should we use? Not sure. Are you talking about the C++ compiler, or are you talking about Unity compiler? Which compiler are we talking about? If that is, well, either of them, don't worry. Once we start working on the projects, what software version you need to install, what C++ version will be using. All that information will be shared before we start working on it. So don't worry about that. For all the things that you guys are going through in the pre-course for C++ specifically, since you're using Repel, use the latest version of C++ on Repel itself. Okay, Repel is the website that we use for all the online code editing and code submissions pieces, basically. Okay. Will we be touching on vector math? Absolutely, great question. So we will be touching on vector math, and this will be part of your the 3D project, right? So that's when I talked about that we'll be touching on some intermediate and advanced level concepts. Vector math will be one of them as well. Palak is saying I can't hear anything. Palak, probably just try to reconnect, please, because I don't think anybody else is facing that issue. What is the duration for these sessions? So each session is typically 2 hours. Most of the time they do get extended because everything is focused around discussions. So typically you will, you will be expected to keep a 2.5 hour buffer for all the sessions. Everything again will be scheduled ahead of time. Sometimes if a mentor, because all the mentors are also working professionals, right? So sometimes it will happen that if mentors are getting delayed because of their work commitment and all, they'll inform ahead of time that maybe we have to shift the session by half an hour or 1 hour or something, right? So, but we try our best to not to make any changes, or at least not any short notice changes, right? Difference between your course and course on Udemy. So just sit and watch through the entire orientation, and then you can figure it out for yourself. What is the difference? What is time? What is time? I'm guessing you're talking about time for the sessions. So for this specific batch, it will be evenings. So there'll be a mix of people who have already graduated and some who are in their final years. So the session timings will be in the evenings, most likely after 7 p.m. So on average, you can expect 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. is the ideal timing, but somewhere between 7 to 11, we'll find out the right timing, and these will usually be sort of communicated ahead of time itself. And sometimes it will change from mentor to mentor. So if I'm taking your 2D project, and ideal time for me is like somewhere say 7 to 9, I might take it 7 to 9. So for those 4 weeks, we'll be focusing 7 to 9. But if somebody else comes in for the DS module, which again will be at least 2 months long, and that mentor is slightly more flexible, or his work schedule works better for 8 to 10 p.m., we'll shift it 8 to 10 p.m. But all these things will be communicated, but you can assume that anytime after 7 p.m. is typically when we'll be scheduling the sessions, right? Okay, Palak, the session is getting recorded. So, the orientation that I did last week, if you can watch that, or this session also, the recording will be available by tomorrow. So you can take a look at that as well, okay? I have basic knowledge of C++, so do I do this? I'm not an engineer. What languages do I need to learn? Okay, good question. So you don't need to know any other languages beforehand. The only thing that I care about is you're taking your career seriously, right? And this will be reflected in the next section where we talk about the income share agreement part as well. The only thing that we test for as part of our selection criteria is that you're damn fucking serious about your career. If you're not, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. I would respectfully encourage you to go and play PUBG or something else. Whatever you want to do with your time, please do that. But if you're really damn serious about your career and making sure that you get a kick-ass start to that, then only we want you to be part of this program. Okay. Anyways, our batches are really small. We usually don't end up taking any time more than 15 people per batch. So typically, I've seen companies that are doing 200 people per batch, but I somehow just don't understand how learning can happen, and how can you get feedback out of when there are 200 people sitting on a single Zoom session. So I rather work with less than 15 students, but I want to make sure that I work with students that are going to bust their asses because they are really passionate about this and they really want to, push themselves. Whether you're an engineer, whether you're not an engineer, I don't give a fuck about it. Companies don't care. At the end of the day, you should be able to demonstrate skills. Our very first batch had a student who was a mechanical engineer, and he was doing indie games development for 3 years. Didn't really accomplish much because indie games is definitely hard. But after that, he graduated and is doing really well in the industry now. He's working with Game Shastra, and here recently we have a student who's been um, uh, for the last 5 years he's been in the game industry, but as a 3D artist. He does not come from an engineering background, zero code experience before, and out of the 13 people that we have in the batch, he was the third one to get a job offer. And this is the same batch I'm telling you about where where we haven't even started the multiplayer project yet. And before that also, he has gotten 2 job offers, and one of them is actually a pretty good offer. And right now he's thinking about whether to take it or not. So the point is that background doesn't matter as long as you're able to communicate that you have kick-ass skills that the companies need. Okay, sure, there will be a set of companies that will say, no, 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 we only take BTech, we only take computer science, we only take people from IIT. Sure, there are definitely those set of companies, right? But there is a very big set of companies that say, fuck it to college, fuck it to degrees, because they understand that degrees are not doing shit in terms of skill set that these companies are looking for, and definitely not game companies, right? Majority game companies, like minority universities, don't really have anything um, in terms of your gaming related education, right? So what the hell will the companies check for when they hire from colleges, right? So at the end of the day, they end up just checking for data structures and all, right? So would there be focus on JavaScript? I already covered that. I already mentioned that we will. Main engine, I already covered that as well. Unity, guys, please, if you missed some parts of the section, just please make sure that you watch that again. Because you need to zoom in on the screen to look better. Okay, so I think you're talking about some of the C++ ones, right? Yeah, so that's actually on my plate to re-record. I think it's just my time that's getting a problem right now. So I'll try my best to get to it very soon. Okay, so I'll promise you that. I'm a student journalist. So if you're a journalist and you want to stay a journalist, this is not going to help you. But if you want to become a developer, this is definitely going to help you. So that is something that you'll have to figure out whether you want to or not. That's the only thing. Which one technology is the best? That is web or game? Ravi, I think that is not the right question for this discussion. What I'll encourage is that you ask that in the Discord developer community, because it's a very long discussion, and I've already done webinars on things like web development versus game development and things like that. So you should probably check our YouTube channel because these discussions alone will take up more than an hour and a half. And I need to cover a lot of other things for this orientation. So sorry about that. But that being said, we have had students that are now working at a hybrid of web development and game development. So when I talked about transferable skills, you guys probably underestimate as to what it means to be a web developer or a game developer, right? There is a lot of game development that happens in web, and there is vice versa as well. So the student that I was just telling you about, who's been 5 years in the industry as as an artist, the company that has offered him is basically an HTML5 game developer. So he's learning JavaScript, he's learning Unity, he's learning C++. You need to be well-rounded, right? There are a lot of different kind of opportunities that will present in future, and you need to be able to be in a position to say, yes, I can learn new things and I'll be able to grasp them, okay? Yeah, so let me come back to this. So, so all the sessions will be again conducted on Zoom. and the focus will be on project discussions and doubts and making sure that your implementations, all those implementations that you have implemented on your features, etc., gets reviewed and you get detailed feedback on those things, right? If you're lagging behind, if you're not able to cope up, there will be time and some time will be given to you to make sure that you get to cope up. But if you're really lacking behind in terms of your project completions, it will eventually impact when you will enter into the placement cycle. So at the end of the day, we will not push your candidature out to any companies unless all your projects are in shape and you have actually implemented all the modules. If that is not happening, then we can't confidently say that you're ready. Okay. Um, Timings, again, everything in terms of sessions like today's session, everything we use Google Calendar heavily. So everything will be scheduled on Google Calendar ahead of time. Anytime there is a change, it will be communicated via Google Calendar and email as well. There will be a daily stand-up meeting. Again, this is something that is the industry standard, where every time you will basically every day you'll be coming together in a quick 15-minute meeting at the end of the day on on a voice channel and communicating to your team lead as to what progress have you made today, how much things have you implemented, do you need any help if you're getting stuck, etc., right? So we'll be following this daily stand-up process as well, and it's the same thing that majority companies follow. Discord is the primary place where we do all the doubt solving and all the discussion in between two live sessions. So some projects will be having 3 live sessions per week. Some projects will be having 2 live sessions per week. It will depend from project to project and sometimes even topic to topic, depending on how advanced / intermediate the topic is. And anytime that you're working on your implementations and you're getting stuck anywhere, quickly go over to Discord and you will basically be able to ask your doubts there. Okay. All the sessions that happens will get recorded 100% no matter what, including like today's, and they will be available maximum by next day. So if the class is in the evening or late at night, next day morning, the session will be uploaded to YouTube and the link will be shared with you guys. Okay. All the assignment and submission. So for those who are already part of Google Classroom, you guys have already seen how the setup is. Similarly, new projects will start to unlock once we transition into the full program. Okay. So the assignments and the submissions will happen. Everything will happen through Google Classroom, irrespective of whether we are working on the Unity project or we are working on the C++ modules, right? Data structures, Unity, Node.js, no matter what, everything will be linked and tracked inside Google Classroom. All right. Which platform should I practice? On which platform should I practice to get twin benefits of this course? I'm not sure what do you mean by twin benefits. Can you please clarify? In COVID, is company can hire game development engineers? Sorry, I'm not sure if you mean companies are hiring game development engineers in COVID. I just told you that there are a bunch of companies hiring, and that's actually a peak for hiring in the gaming industry right now. So it's an all-time high at the moment, actually. Okay, so in terms of the fee structure, I think everybody by now should be familiar that there are 2 different ways for the fees for the program, right? So one is basically a standard tuition fee prepaid kind of a model, and where the fees for the program is 1.5 lakhs plus GST. And if you're not, so for anybody who's enrolling into the program where they are not eligible to take up a job offer immediately from on completion, right? They'll fall into a category where they have to opt in for a prepaid model. Okay. So if you're a first year, second year, third year student, then this is the thing that applies to you. Okay. But for those who are final year students or beyond, and 6 months from now, when we finish the program, and you're immediately looking for job opportunities there, then you are potentially applicable for an income share agreement. Okay. Irrespective of which structure you go with, either ways, the first 2 weeks of the program is free for you to check out and understand how this entire thing works, right? Whether this even works for you or not, timing wise, work pressure wise, expectation wise, and everything else as well, right? So it's basically a trial period, not just for you, but also for us. Like I mentioned, I'm happy to work with very small batches, but I really want to work with only people that are kick-ass in terms of focusing on their career. I don't care whether you know anything technology before or not. That's what we are here for. We'll teach you ABC of pretty much everything, but you need to be motivated to make sure that you're focused on it 100%. If you're not, like I said, you'll be wasting both our times, right? So the first 2 weeks, they end up in being free, irrespective of whether you are in the prepaid category or the postpaid category. It doesn't matter. Okay. And the way it works is that you guys know that there will be a security deposit, and I'll cover that in a bit. But that security deposit gets refunded that if you decide within the first 2 weeks that, hey, this program is not working out for me, I don't like it for whatever reason, right? Or maybe I'm just not able to devote time to it now, and I'll apply again in future. So whatever the case may be, if you do not wish to continue, and you let us know before the first 2 weeks end, then the security deposit gets refunded to you as well, right? So that's where the first 2 weeks is free. But at the end of the first 2 weeks, you have to make a decision. And if you decide to continue further, then either you opt in for the prepaid one or the postpaid one. If your assignments are lacking, if you're not able to show progress, that you're able to make progress, we will not be in a position to offer you income share agreement. And if you really want to continue, you will have to go for prepaid. So it's always in your best interest that if you're a final year student, or if you're looking for job opportunities immediately after graduating from the program, then you make sure that your progress is up to date. You're able to attend all the live sessions. You're able to continue implementing your features, and assignments are on time, etc. as well, right? So the 2 week trial is not just a trial for you, it's a trial for us as well. And I'm the first one to kick people out, right? Because like I said again and again, I really want to focus our team's effort and energy, because at the end of the day, we are also a very small team, right? And we want to focus on energy on people who are really taking this seriously. So from that way, we'll basically be it's not a sure shot deal that if you end up staying for 2 weeks, you will get an ISA, right? Chances are, if you're doing your work, if you're completing all your assignment, 100% you'll get an ISA. If that is lacking, chances are we might not be in a position to give you an opportunity to go for an ISA. In that case, if you do want to continue, you will have to take a prepaid one. Okay. All right, so coming into what this ISA is. So hopefully everybody has had a couple of conversations with members from my team before, and everybody knows that ISA means an income share agreement, okay? Typically what this means is that you're saying that I'm not gonna pay anything upfront, okay? But if the company does its job well, that means us do our job well, and you do get a job with certain conditions in place, then you'll be basically paying us back a future part of your income to us, okay? And what this one contract does is it makes sure that you as a student or a learner and us as a company, our goal is the same, which is making sure that you bloody get a good damn job, right? Because if you don't get a job, and that too at a certain CDC level, then we don't get paid anything. We have already invested a lot of time and energy and resources into training you. And at the end of the day, after 9 months of training and interview preparation and all the technical lectures and everything, right? If we still can't get you a job, right, it's a loss. It's a big loss for us, right? So fundamentally what this is doing is making sure that you and us are all working towards only one goal, that is your success, because we will only succeed if you succeed, right? Otherwise we don't get shit, right? So that's at the end of the day, that's the core innovation in this structure, which, we're not acting like a college, which at the start of a semester says, hey, your tuition fees is due, and after that go fuck off, right? We don't care if you pass or fail in your exams. We don't care if the professor shows up and teaches you anything that is relevant to today's day and age. Too bad. We're just going to give you a degree that is meaningless, and you have to pay tuition no matter what. right? So that doesn't happen with us. And that is where fundamentally it is a game changer when you think about, how do people learn, and, how do people sort of become job ready, right? So in terms of the nuances of what the income share agreement details, so the idea is that you basically will be committing 17% of your CTC, and this is before taxes. So your EMIs that you'll be paying back to the company once you have been placed, once you have started earning, will be based on your future income, and the percentage is fixed. The percentage is 17%, and obviously the higher your salary is, the sooner we'll be able to repay ourselves. So naturally we want that you get the best possible salary, because then only we get the best possible, because percentage, remember, is fixed, right? We can't change that. So 17%, and you'll be basically paying us over a course of 36 installments. Okay. And the way these are calculated is, so imagine if your CTC is 6 lakhs, right? So you take 6 lakhs, take 17% of 6 lakhs, and you divide it by 12, right? So that is going to be your EMI that you're going to pay every month at the end of the month, basically, when you get your salary, right? So it's a very simple, straightforward calculation. And then you basically pay this over, for 36 months. Okay. And there are certain things in place and limits in place as well. I'll just cover those. So the total duration of the income share agreement is 6 years. Okay. And what this means is that typically if somebody has taken a loan, if you've taken a loan from an SBI or something, the moment your degree finishes, right? It's a 4-year degree. You finish a degree, your SBI installments start immediately. Whether you have a job, whether you don't have a job, whether you have graduated or not, doesn't matter. SBI says, I'm going to take an EMI no matter what, starting with this date, period, right? That's it. But the way income share agreement works is that you only pay us back when you have that income, right? We're not forcing you to pay when you don't even have that income and you don't have a job yet, right? So imagine if you graduate in 6 months, usually there is another 3 months on top where you will be interviewing with a lot of different companies. Companies will be conducting 3, 3, 4 interviews, etc., right? And then you'll decide which company to join, etc. Usually this period can take anywhere between 2 to 3 months, right? So during that time, you have not yet started earning. So you don't have to pay during that time, right? But that time gets counted in 6 years, basically. So once you graduate from the program, any time from that point till 6 years into the future, if your CTC is beyond the minimum CTC that we have agreed to, right, then you'll be basically liable to pay. But you will never end up paying more than 36 installments. Okay. So 6 years is just an upper limit. But imagine if, you say, I have to go back to home or family and I can't work for 1 year, right? We cannot force you to take up a job, right? If you come back to the city and start working later, etc., then your EMI starts then when you start earning, right? So that's where it gives students a lot of flexibility and power to make sure that they control, their own success, right? So tomorrow, if you start working, your EMI starts, but say 1 year from now, your company shuts down or you leave that job, right? And then 2 months you're not employed because you're looking for a different job. During those 2 months, you don't pay because you're not earning anything, right? But if you're taking earnings from, say, a freelance job or something else in the meantime, and your monthly income is above the CTC threshold, then you still have to pay. Okay. So the ISA is flexible that if your monthly income is below that minimum CTC mark, you don't have to worry about paying, but you do need to tell us that, hey, here's my monthly income. It's less than this. So this month I'm not going to be paying, right? You have to still communicate that to us, but you're not liable to pay. We don't force you to pay. Okay. So basically you'll be paying for 36 months. Okay. There is an upper limit as well in place of how much a person would ever pay. So no matter what, you will never pay more than 3 lakhs. So if you've paid 36 installments, or the total amount that you have paid back as EMIs has reached 3 lakhs, then your income share agreement is over. Basically, it just stops there. It doesn't continue after that, right? So imagine that, when you graduate, we did a really awesome job and you end up with a job of 20 lakhs or something ridiculously high, right? Now, naturally, your 17% of your installment would be much higher, right? So if you end up paying for 36 months on a 20 lakh, this would be like what? I don't know the mental math, but somewhere, let's say 10 lakh and above, right? Uh, that seems ridiculous, right? That for a 6 to 9 month course, you're paying 10 lakh as the fees, right? That's not fair to you. So what that happens is, what the contract says is that there is an upper limit in place as well. So you will never pay more than 3 lakhs, no matter what the case may be, right? So the moment you touch 3 lakhs, even if you got a 20 lakh job, you know, maybe you finish your installments in the first 12 months instead of 36 months. And then your income share agreement is done. You have paid whatever you owed, and now it's over. So you keep, going for higher and higher CTC, you don't have to pay us back anything. So it kind of, there are safety measures in place for you as well after you graduate, so you don't end up getting abused by the contract as well, right? So there are these safety measures in place. Okay, so once you have graduated, all the projects, etc., you have showcased that are complete, etc., and you're ready for placements. From that point onward, once you have gotten the approval from Outscal that you have graduated, from that point onwards to 12 months in the future, if you're, if you don't get a job that pays you more than 5 lakhs CTC, then you can file with us and request us to completely cancel your ISA. And obviously, you'll have to submit paperwork and proof that your income actually did not cross above 5 lakhs. But if it does not cross 5 lakhs between anytime between the next 12 months of graduation, then we basically cancel your ISA altogether. Okay, that's another safety measure that we have placed so that you don't have to worry about that. Hey, I'll get a higher CTC 5 years from now, you'll charge me, right? But I did so many other things in 5 years, and now you're charging me for it because I took some course 5 years back, right? So we want to make sure that these things are aligned. So there are these safety measures in place. Another main question that usually students end up asking is, what happens if I start my job at a slightly below CTC? So the minimum CTC is 5 lakhs, and if your salary is below 5 lakhs on an annual basis for any month, during that month you don't pay, right? So imagine a scenario where a company hires you today and they are paying you 4.5 lakhs, right? Typically, every company will have some kind of a probation period, right? They'll say you have a 3-month probation period. At the end of 3 months, we'll do a performance review and we'll revise your salary and turn you into a full-time employee or something like that, right? Or they might hire you as an intern first and then turn you into a full-time employee, whatever. Depends on the company to company. So if during this probation period, you are below the 5 lakh CTC, say at 4 lakhs or 4.5 lakhs or something like that, right? Then during that time, you don't have to pay. But once you cross over and your CTC gets revised and goes above the 5 lakh mark, say after 4.5, it gets revised to 6 lakhs, right? So the moment it goes to 6 lakhs, that's when your EMI starts, okay? And it will be calculated based on that 6 lakh number, not the 4.5, obviously, right? So 17% of 6 lakhs divided by 12, that's the EMI that you'll start paying once the CTC has been revised, okay? So those are kind of like the main things that you need to worry about in terms of knowing what the details are in terms of ISA, okay? And the whole contract is a full 17-page document. So once we start the full course, you will be shared a PDF that has the full contract. You will have a good 10 days to review it. Make sure you have gotten it reviewed by your guardian, your parents, because they will also need to sign the contract. There will be let me go here. Actually, so let me just finish this before I continue further. So as part of the whole contract, right, because I mentioned that this is a proper contract that you'll be entering into, there's a lot of documents also that you need to provide. This is a main list of all the documents, but again, the full list will be shared with you much ahead of time, and you'll have ample time to gather all the documents and submit us the soft copy and everything as well, okay? So during the 2 weeks, we'll be sharing you the contract, and you'll be going through it. If there are any questions, you can ask. But at the end of the 2 weeks, like I mentioned before, you'll be making a decision whether you want to go for the upfront or the ISA, right? Again, the ISA will be, there needs to be a co-signer as well. So a parent or a guardian or whoever is the earning member of the family who's representing you will also be a co-signer for the contract. The certain key elements of the contract is that the company can ask you to share your job offer letters at any time. Like Outscal can ask you to share your, and you're legally obligated to disclose those things to us as well, because these are all part of making sure that whatever you disclose to us, that is all correct, right? So, and we naturally, because we partner with a lot of companies, we get a lot of the information from companies as well. So if ever a student sort of underreports, they say, let's say a student is at 6 lakhs or 7 lakhs, right, which is above the CTC, and they tell us that they're earning 4 lakhs. If companies and like companies and Outscale are in partnership, when we send out our students to companies, they enter into an agreement with us that they will be disclosing what offer are they making to our students as well, right? So that's a contract that we make with the companies. So naturally, we already know what the companies would be offering you, right? Because we need to also manage the placement pipeline, right? It's the same process that that the college also runs, right? So you need to ensure that the process is the same way, and we have all the information in terms of what the companies have offered, and if can we help you negotiate a better CTC as well, right? So we kind of step in and do all those things. So yeah, so job offer letters, tax filings, income tax filing, basically. So these are the things that that you will be obligated to disclose to us, so that we make sure that we can make sure that whatever you're reporting is actually correct, right? If we ever find that there is a case where you have underreported in terms of your earnings, which basically means the 17% is underreported, you haven't really declared it correctly, then that is a violation of the contract. Okay. I mentioned earlier that we'll be doing a 10,000 security deposit, which if you're dropping out of the program will be refunded to you at the end of the 2 weeks. If you decide to drop out after 2 weeks, then it will not be refunded, right? So you need to make a decision within the first 2 weeks if you want to continue or not. So it is refundable. And if you're taking an ISA after the 2 weeks, then this 10,000 will get adjusted in your EMIs. So whenever you start paying your EMIs, this will get adjusted in your last EMI. So you'll have to pay 1 or 2 EMIs less during that time, but it will get adjusted there, right? As part of the contract, there is a 75,000 rupee post-dated check. Okay, this check is for 9 months into the future. It's not for today. It's not for tomorrow. So if our program starts today, August, this would probably be what, February or March of next year. Okay, and this is a security deposit check that we hold as a check. Okay, this is not something that we cash. The idea is that 6 months from now you'll graduate. 2-3 months on top will take you to get placed comfortably and start working. And if you're still in good standing with the company, you're taking your placement seriously, you have completed all your projects, you're disclosing which companies are hiring you and not hiring you, etc., etc. That means you're going to honor your contract as well, right? If we find that there is some kind of a violation on the contract or on the terms that we've discussed, then only we have the right to cash this check. So it acts as a security check that we hold. Think of it much like how a bank usually asks for collateral. This is acting like that, right? But the idea is that at the end of the ISA, if ever there is no violation and you've finished your ISA and everything is done, then this check either gets scrapped off or it gets returned to you, one way or the other, right? Because at the end of the day, the value of the program is much more than 75,000, right? So if ever we have to cash this check, it's actually a loss for us, and we do not want to enter into that situation, right? So ideally, all the terms under which the company has the right to cash this check are also detailed out in the contract. And if you have any doubts, because this is the one thing that I feel majority students do not understand what it means, please make sure that either you ask me again, or you ask the team to understand you, confirm and know what this exactly means, right? Majority people think that this is something that they have to pay now. This is not what you have to pay, right? Most of the time, we don't care even if you have this in your account or not, this much money on your account or not, because this is not something to be cashed, right? This is something to be held as a security deposit, and it only gets cashed if there is a violation, right? If you violate the contract. If you don't violate the contract, it doesn't get cashed. If you violate the contract, it gets cashed, and the money is not there in the account. The bank issues a notice against you, right? This is the only way for us to issue a legal notice against you if there is a violation of the contract. But if there is no violation, you never have to worry about it. I never have to worry about it, right? And we can both, you can go being a successful game developer, and I can focus on my job of training more game developers. Okay. So that's mainly the details about the ISA. I'll quickly cover up a few remaining things that I want to talk about, and then we'll jump into the remainder. I can see there are quite a few questions, so I'll just pick them up after this. So placements. Um, we directly maintain a lot of strong relationships with companies. So at the end and even during the program, if we see there is a good fit between what a company is looking for and the kind of skill set that you guys might have, we will directly funnel you guys and funnel your resumes into these companies. But as we go along, we'll be building, like I mentioned, a GitHub profile, a LinkedIn profile. And the idea would be that at the end of the day, I'm teaching you these things as to how you can find the right kind of opportunity, how you can network with people. So I'm not sure majority of you might have seen, if you go to LinkedIn and search for Outscale, you'll see there are so many other students that are starting to put out video recordings of their games that they're building as part of the program, right? So similar things you'll be doing. And the whole idea is that in today's day and age, if you want to be successful, you want the opportunities to come to you. You don't have to go and hunt opportunities. You want to build a name for yourself on social platforms, professional social platforms like LinkedIn, where recruiters are looking at candidates and they reach out to you rather than you having to reach out to companies, right? Because that makes you in the power position. Like now you are in power and they are not, because they are reaching out to you. So you can negotiate and dictate terms, right? So it's more to just focusing on tech skills and building projects. There is a lot more that goes into being a well-rounded engineer and being a solid industry professional, right? So a lot of the focus will happen there as well. In terms of tools, I think Google Classroom, Zoom, these things you already know. Discord, again, is the primary place where we'll be doing a lot of discussions. So this is our Discord community. I think a few of you guys are already part of it. There are different channels, as you can see. These are all the batches that are currently going on, etc. These are all private channels. Then majority of these channels are public channels. So if you scroll down here, there are specific channels that are focused on game development and Unity specifically, right? So people are kind of discussing their doubts, etc., all here, right? So this is the primary place where you guys will be also interacting in between your live classes, okay? So anytime outside your live classes, you'll be posting your doubts, etc., here, right? So that's where the sort of Discord community happens. Now, even if you don't end up joining Outscale, I would still encourage you to join Discord because you can connect with other folks in the industry and interact with them, etc. as well. Gmail calendar, I already mentioned, all the classes, etc. will be scheduled here. In terms of becoming good at professional, being a good professional, I think there are a few key things that in India, generally we are horrible at. One being time management. We are, this is something I've learned in US heavily. People value their time a lot, and that is why one of the main reasons why they are such ahead of us. We do not value time. And I don't mean just you and me, I mean India as a society and a country. We always give more power to money over time. So what you want to do is understand your value of time. And the only way you can do that is that if you have ever had a paying job or a paying internship, calculate how much you're earning on a per hour basis. So reverse calculate that if I get this much amount on a month and I'm working 5 or 6 days, 8 hours every day, how many hours am I spending working, and how much is my hourly wage per, per hour, right? If ever you end up wasting time, you can simply say that if it comes out to be, say, you're earning 100 rupees an hour, right? If you end up wasting 2 hours, you can say, I just burned 400 rupees of mine, right? So you can take the 200 rupees that you would have earned, multiply it by 2, because not only you just wasted that money, you wasted time equivalent as well. So you multiply it by 2 and you remind yourself that if you wasted 2 hours, you literally took 400 rupees and burned it, right? And that is going to get you serious about not wasting time, no matter what you do, right? Just make sure that you're on top of in terms of time management. This is something that Indians as a whole, we as a society need to learn in order to make sure that we become as powerful as some of the developed nations in the country, some of the developed nations in the world, right? Communication, I think I've repeated this enough times, that communication is key to no matter what you do. Game development, web development, Android, not even coding, journalism, whatever, right? If you're not able to communicate in today's day and age, you can forget it. So the last thing, practice. Practice the fuck out of whatever you're doing, right? Whether it's data structures, whether it's algorithms, whether it's C++, whether it's Unity, whether it's animations, whether it's games, it doesn't matter, right? Any day, if you think you're really smart and there is an idiot sitting next to you and that idiot works 10 times hard, trust me, that idiot is going to succeed and you're not, right? Just because you think you're smart doesn't mean that you can get away from this, right? So if you think 8 hours of practice is enough, put in 10 hours. If you think 10 hours is enough, put in 12. If you think 12 is enough, put in 14. Whatever the fuck you think is enough, put in more, right? Because trust me, at this age in your career, the more you practice, the more you're going to reap the rewards out of it, right? It's easy and it's tempting to go play PUBG and other games if you guys are into games. But trust me that uh, there is a time and place. So play games, absolutely. I've played shit ton of them myself, and but make sure that you time box it, right? Like you put it in a time window and say, I'm going to play games for the next 45 minutes, and then I'm going to go practice a data structure problem. Then I'm going to go practice my next feature implementation in Unity, right? Or I'm going to learn this new feature, etc. Right? So whatever it is, put things in time buckets and make sure you do that. So even if you don't end up joining Outscal, if you really want to benefit from this last 1.5 hours that you guys have spent with me, just take these 3 points, no matter what you do. And if you just focus on this, I'll wish you good luck, and I'm 100% sure you'll be successful no matter what you do. Okay. Um, any other questions? Basically, you can send them over email to admissions. That's the Discord link. I'll just put it in the chat as well for everyone. So you guys can directly use this link to join the Discord community that I just showed you. It's free for everybody to join. There's nothing there in terms of cost or anything. So feel free to join. Okay. Cool. So now let me take up the questions that are there in the chat. Okay, so best engine for mobile game development, Unreal or Unity? It doesn't matter. You can use either. You can build really games. You just need to know what the F you are doing. If you can be on the best engine. Engine is just a tool, right? You can buy the best tools. If you don't know how to use them, as good as nothing, right? So stick with one. And if you're looking from job opportunities perspective, especially in India, I would recommend Unity, just based on, not because Unity is better versus Unreal or vice versa. It's just because number of job opportunities are going to be more when it comes to Unity versus Unreal, especially in India. Okay. So the perspective I look at it is very different from the way your question was, which is the best engine for mobile games development. There is nothing as best. It's always about what you make of it, right? There are sexy, kick-ass, beautiful looking games done in Unity as well, and there is pretty shitty looking games done in Unreal. So it's not on the engine, it's on the skill of the developers. Parallel practice to grab it properly. I think I missed the context of this question. Chinmay, if you can please just give me the full question. Sorry about that. Uh, Prince is asking, in postpaid category, we have to pay the fee for continuous 3 years. No, like I explained. So if you only pay for the months that you're basically earning, if in between you drop a job, or the company gets shut down, or you're laid off, whatever might happen, right? If you're not earning, your in earnings goes below, then you stop paying. Even now in COVID, a lot of companies did not job cut, but pay cuts, right? So imagine if you were at 6 LPA, but company said we are doing pay cuts during COVID, and now your LPA is say 4.5 effectively, then definitely you're not paying us. So even though you're doing the same job, you're working within the same company, doing exactly the same thing, but because you had to endure a pay cut, you just need to tell us that, hey, I am under a pay cut. I won't be able to pay because my earnings is below the minimum CTC mark. Okay. So minimum CTC is 5 lakhs. If you convert that on a monthly basis, it will come out to be 41,666. If sometime we go for higher studies, we have to pay for the higher studies end. Correct. So if you end up taking, say, like MTech course or 2-year course or something, right? That is where the entire course duration is 6 years, where you do end up taking 2-year program, 2-year MTech course. Then after that, when you start earning, you'll have to pay back basically then. But in that case, I would really encourage you to not enroll in the program right now, because you're not going to be able to get the most benefit out of it, right? If your focus is that I want to learn and maybe start, like we have had people who want to start their own game companies and they want to learn the skill set, right? So they have enrolled with us and they have taken the prepaid option or the upfront option, right? Because they're like, I don't want a job, I want to start my own company, and that is why I want to learn, right? So those are the options that I will encourage you to take then. I'm a student of second year now, so I want to ask what happens in my. So like I said, Shashank, second year students are not eligible for a ISA. You will be only applicable for a upfront program, basically. Okay. When will this course expected to start? 22nd. Yeah. So I think it was communicated on email. Basically, we are looking to kickstart it. Either this Saturday or Sunday, maximum by Monday. So it's mainly on my schedule, guys. So I apologize for that on the delay. My schedule has been just pretty crazy hectic. So I kick off all the batches no matter what. So I like to engage with the students that are incoming and also make sure that you guys have all your questions answered. So it's kind of a problem on me. So I'll do my best, but we'll communicate the exact start the first session. Hopefully it's going to be happening on this Saturday. Okay. But it might get pushed to Monday. So, please don't kill me in case it gets pushed to Monday. Question is, if we are using C++ in this game development, I want to know why are we using C++ because there are so many languages also. My question is that if we are using C++ in this game development, I want to know why we are using C++. So good question. I partly answered that already, Kuldeep. So the question is that why are we doing C++, right? There are so many other languages. So we are not doing C++ only. We are covering C# for Unity. We're covering C++ for data structures, and we're covering JavaScript for Node.js and backend server, right? So we are essentially covering 3 different languages, not just one. And the reason specifically for C++ is that today you're focusing on learning Unity game engine, but tomorrow, if you have solid kick-ass C++, you basically become eligible for companies like Rockstar and Sumo Digital that work on their own custom tech, and they don't use Unity, they don't use Unreal, they have their own engine. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, my job here is to make you the best possible game developer. My job is not to make you the best possible Unity developer. Okay, there is a big difference. Tomorrow, 2 years from now, if suddenly the job opportunities change, It's not going to happen. But if it does, you know, and suddenly you're only married to Unity and you only know Unity, too bad. You'll have to spend another 1 year trying to learn new skills. But if you're flexible and you learn multiple things, right, you can adapt really quickly. You'll never be out of luck and you'll never be out of job opportunities. So learning C++ opens up the door for you to apply to companies that are doing Unreal or are using custom engines as well. There is a lot of custom engines that companies are using, such as Cocos 2D and all, that use C++ underlying, and you need to be really good at C++. Okay. Uh, and generally, I just feel doing data structures in any other language apart from C++ is just not good, because other languages give you a lot of flexibility in implementing data structures, and which makes your job easy, but you do not understand fundamentals. So you really need to learn C++ if you want to be a good developer, because there are too many concepts in fundamentals that other languages are very lazy, and they take the pain point, and developers don't feel the pain of implementing it. So once you feel the pain, you understand how to appreciate each language. You probably might not understand what I'm saying right now, but once we start diving into C++ and the nuances of this thing, you'll start appreciating why the fuck we are doing C++. um, what is the 10,000? I'm not understanding. Ravi, please rewatch that particular piece. I've already explained it in full details. So please rewatch it in the recorded version. I am running out of time to explain it again. Okay, sorry about that. I worked in a company for 1 year while paying CTC, and if I've gone for MBA for 2 years and after I rejoin, then will I continue the same ISA agreement? Correct. So if you start working for 1 year, you've already paid, say, 12 installments, right? Then you go for an MBA or something. You come back and join another game company. I mean, it's weird to think that you went for MBA and then you came back to a game company. You probably would have just saved the 2 years and directly went to that game company. But anyhow, if you do end up doing that, so during those 2 years of your MBA or MTech or whatever, you're not paying anything because you're not earning. But after you join another game company or another technology role, then yes, the ISA resumes based on whatever is your CTC at that stage. Okay, so you start to pay back. So one thing that I forgot to mention is there are a list of technology-oriented roles that are mentioned in the ISA as well. That if you're working as a software developer, the ISA applies to you. Tomorrow, if you say, I've finished the program and I've become a farmer and I'm doing agriculture, which is not what I taught you, then, Outscale cannot charge you ISA, right? So if you are continuing to do and use the things that we have taught you, right? So that means that tomorrow, if you end up working as a backend engineer and a game developer, or Android developer, or an Unreal developer, or something on the development side, software industry, IT industry, then your ISA is applicable. If you become a chef in a restaurant, or you become a farmer, or something that is completely disconnected from the IT and software world, we haven't taught you that, right? So if you make an earning or living through those means, then you don't have to worry about paying the ISA. Okay, the ISA will become cancelled after the 6 years is over, even if you have paid zero back to the company, right? So only if you end up using those skills, then only the ISA is payable to you. You have to pay the ISA basically. I meant good game company, then it doesn't matter. Game company is game company. All the skills that we have taught you are going to be used. Good or bad doesn't matter, right? It's up to you to define what good and bad is. I can't say that one company is good or other company is bad, right? The only thing that we categorize is on, are you above the minimum CTC or are you below the minimum CTC? If you're above the minimum CTC, then you have to pay. If you're below, then you don't, right? So that's the only thing that we differentiate on. I've completed the pre-course. I want to know when. Yeah, Prashant, I literally just mentioned that it's going to be over this weekend on Monday, right? So the start will happen within the next 7 days, basically. Before, like, next Monday is 100% when we are starting. but we might kick off on Saturday. If we will, okay, Prashant, no worries, cool, all good. If we will get a job in other language like Java or any other, yes, absolutely. So like I said, if it is anything to do with coding and anything to do with programming fundamentals, all those same things is exactly like all my explanation regarding transferable skills is exactly the same thing. So there are game developers in Java as well that are building games, right? There are game developers building games in JavaScript as well, right? So if you're working in the software industry, I say will apply to you. And because at the end of the day, when you do these interviews, companies will assess you on data structures, companies will assess you on coding skills, companies will assess you on coding fundamentals, and all those things are getting taught, right? So um, whether you we will share you like LinkedIn job posts, so that if there are companies outside our network, right, we want to maximize that, that you get the best possible opportunities, right? So a lot of the times if companies are outside the network or they're too small for us to reach out to and have a direct connection with them, we if we see there is a good opportunity, we'll sometimes directly give you a LinkedIn job link and say, hey, this opportunity seems good for you, why don't you just directly apply on LinkedIn, right? And they might directly connect with you as well. So like I mentioned, the whole goal of ISA is to make sure that you get the best possible kickstart in your career. End of story. How that happens doesn't matter, right? We will do whatever it takes to get you the best possible start. You need to do whatever it takes to get the best possible start. Whether it is us sending your resumes to companies, whether it is us telling you, hey, these are the LinkedIn like job opportunities that are outside our company's network. We are not yet connected with the companies, and usually connecting with the companies, signing a contract, signing an agreement usually is a slow process because it's between company to company, right? So it takes sometimes months with bigger companies. But if we see there is a good opportunity out there, Rockstar just posted an opportunity and we know that you guys are a good fit, we'll directly tell you guys, just go and apply to this Rockstar opportunity because it's immediately open, right? Like, why do we waste our chances of getting through a kick-ass company just because they might be outside our network, right? So we want to make sure that we maximize the chances of you to succeed no matter what the means may be. End goal is what we aim for, and the end goal is to you guys get a good start, right? So whether you apply through LinkedIn and you get a job there, whether we push you directly to a resume, right, resumes to a company and you get a job there, we tell you that to go apply on Angel List or Naukri or XYZ place where a company is hiring and this is a good company offering good salary, offering good location, whatever, right? So at the end of the day, if you get a good job, the ISA kind of kicks in, right? So those are basically um, the whole details, right? Okay, cool. So I don't see any more questions. If anyone has any questions, just I'll just take 30 seconds more and you guys can put them down. But otherwise, then we can wrap up. So I think we already overshot the 1.5 hour that we had planned. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me and listening all the way to the end. So thank you for staying around. And hopefully I was able to answer all the questions. I know some questions I asked that you guys go back and watch just because of time again. In case you guys still rewatch and something is, sorry, something is still not clear, please by all means reach out to my team. So Satnam, Gaurav, Dibshish, whoever you have been in touch with on the Outscal team, please feel to directly drop them a WhatsApp message and ask them to jump on a quick phone call with you to detail out whatever extra things that you might need clarification on. Okay. Cool, guys. Awesome. So I don't see any more questions coming in. So let's wrap it up for today. Hopefully all of you are in the pre-course. So before we start in the coming weekend, the expectation is that you guys have all gone through the C++ pre-course, because once we start the sessions, we'll be spending less time on C++ and jumping, relatively soon into Unity 2D project, the first project that I talked about. So we'll be spending a 2-3 classes in the beginning just to review and make sure that you guys understand all the C++ concepts before we dive into other things as well. Prince, can you share their numbers so you can contact them? Sure, Prince, I can share you the number. Give me 1 second. So I'll just put it down in the chat for everybody. And anybody who's interested can just directly reach out to this number, okay? So it's 859543089 Okay, so 85954 Yep. So actually, let me paste it for everyone as well. Okay. All right, guys. So here's the number. In case somebody is not able to reach out or anything, just join the Discord community. I'm there. Entire team is there, and you can directly message us for anything as well. And all the other mentors are going to be there as well. So I'll see you guys all in the Google Classroom doing some kick-ass C++ assignments. And there is a mini game project in the C++ pre-course itself. So that will give you a taste of what is to come. And hopefully you guys are all excited about it as well, right? Awesome. Cool, guys. Thanks for joining in, and I'll see you guys very soon again. All right. Take care, guys. Good night.